Hello students, I'm Nahid and you are watching my YouTube channel Applied Linguistics with Nahid. Already we have conducted 2 lectures onto the introduction of morphology, then the concept of words and the morphemes. Today's lecture is going to be a recap of the last lecture, in which there will be just one slide share to give you the distinction or the difference in between the words and the morphemes. It will be an attempt to make you clear that where the words and the morphemes are associated, are part of one another, and where they are not the part of one another. So let's take a start of today's lecture by sharing the slide which I have prepared for you. Students, the slide is marked as Lecture 1, Part 3. I have written Part 3 just to connect this lecture with the previous 2. This is basically the conceptual clarity in between the words and the morphemes. And it is a recap of the previous 2 lectures. You can see that in this slide, I have inserted a figure or a diagram which I have made in a few boxes. You see that there are these 4 big boxes. And if we look at the extreme left side, there are 1, 2, and 3 topics or the areas written in red ink with red markers. At the top, extreme left side, you can see it is written free morphemes. Against this, we will discuss these 2 boxes as the detail. Similarly, at the bottom, you can see that there is the bound morpheme written here. And against bound morphemes, again, I will discuss these 2 boxes, which will be the detail of the bound morphemes. At the end, there is a written cranberry morpheme. And we know on the basis of the previous lecture that the cranberry morphemes are the morphemes which neither have the meanings nor any function. They only become part of some words, or they contribute or participate as components with certain other components to make a word, right? So let's start that what is the detail for the free morpheme. Students, you should keep one thing in your mind, that free morpheme include the content words as well as the functional words. When we discuss or bring the parts of speech in our mind, of course, we know that there are 2 groups in which these parts of speech can be divided. They're called open class and the closed class. In open class, the parts like nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs come, right? And we know that in the closed class, the parts of speech like pronouns, determiners, conjunctions, prepositions, auxiliary verbs, qualifiers, modals, and question words come. These parts of speech can be termed as content words and functional words also. But subjected to morphemes, the content words are considered to be called as lexical morphemes because they carry meanings, right? So they are considered as lexical morphemes. So whenever you are using or working with nouns, verbs, adjectives, or adverbs, you should keep this point in your mind that these are called lexical morphemes, right? Uh, and when you are using the members of the close class, we are using functional words. Subjected to morphemes, the members of the close class are called grammatical morphemes. So we can simply say that free morphemes can be the lexical morphemes or the grammatical morphemes. So both of the morphemes are included into free morphemes. Then coming up onto the bound morphemes, I should tell you that these are the morphemes or the morphological elements or the units which participate in making words through derivation or through inflection. Basically, derivation and the inflection are two processes through which the words are made. In the next lecture, I will be talking about the types of the morphology and the processes and then the methods as well. But here I should briefly tell you that through derivational process or the inflectional process, we make words in English language. These are two very important processes or the methods through which the English words are formed. Now see that in derivation, the affixation is involved, which is comprised of prefixes, infixes, and suffixes. So in other words, we can say that the bound morphemes are the prefixes, infixes, or suffixes. And these are the morphological elements which are attached to some stem words or the root words to create or develop or establish or build words. Similarly, if we look at the other box, which is mostly marked in green color, because I've used a green marker into it, that's my favorite color. All right. So in this box, you see that there are inflections written. In the previous slide, I told you that in English language, there are 8 inflections which are attached to nouns, either nouns or verbs or adjectives or adverbs. So the inflectional components or the inflections also participate in making words in English language. When these inflections or inflectional elements or rather inflection morphemes participate in making words in terms of nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs, the process is called inflectional morphology. That is why in that connection, these elements are called inflectional morphemes. So there are two types of bound morphemes, either derivational morphemes, which are the output of the derivational process, or the inflectional morphemes, which is in terms that the inflections as morphemes participate in building words having themselves attached with the nouns, verbs, adjectives, or adverbs to make form, to make different words. And at the end, you can see that there is the cranberry morpheme written, but already I told you that they do neither perform functions nor they are the kind of the morphemes which can convey meanings. Rather, they only participate in building words by having them attached with some other portions. Yes, I'm saying you portions or parts, because sometimes they make such words that if you detach them from the attached words, you will find that even the attached words have no meanings. So if they are combined together they give some meaning. I hope that with this slide, you are able to make distinction in between the morphemes and the words. It's important to say this thing also, that if you talk about the free morphemes, the best examples can be found into the simple and the compound words. Maybe in some lecture, when I would be giving you some information about the morphology or its types or methods, we will be having a few examples, rather a few further examples which will explain the morphemes and the words, their association, their distinction, difference, and closeness. So students, with this note, I take leave for today's lecture. I advise you to make lists of the words. Like I said, that mark them as lexical morphemes, grammatical morphemes, derivational morphemes, and inflectional morphemes. Although we can make some groups of these morphemes, but categorically there are just three basic types of morphemes, including free morphemes, bound morphemes, and cranberry morphemes. So students, thank you very much for your time. If you like my video, kindly subscribe it and wait for the further videos. So thank you very much. God bless you all.